Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Gianna Lian, and today we have my March reading wrap up. And this one has to be my best wrap up yet. Maybe not in the way of the books I picked up, but how many books I picked up, you guys, because I'm so proud of myself. Looking back at this month, I have no idea how I ended up reading as many books as I did. Going into some statistics, I did read 8 books total this month. That is a new record for me. I am extremely proud of myself. But yeah, I read 8 books, 5 of them being physical, and then 3 of them being on Kindle Unlimited, because if you guys aren't new around here, you guys know I've been loving my Kindle Unlimited subscription lately, so I took advantage of that this month. I'm very proud of myself. But we're basically just gonna go through all the physical books and Kindle Unlimited books that I read this month, and we're just gonna get into this. And make sure you guys give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Kicking off March, I read Final Girls by Riley Sager. I rated this a 4 out of 5, you guys. I've read a lot of Riley Sager books, I'd say now, so I have a general idea of his writing, his stories, just how his books are in general, and this one just didn't live up to the hype, you guys. This one is one of his best sellers. Everyone raves about this book, and I don't know why it kind of just fell flat for me, you guys. I think maybe it's because I'm trying to be more harsh with my ratings, and maybe like months ago I would have rated this 5 stars, but looking at it now and me reading it now, it's just gonna stay a 4 out of 5 in my opinion. The plot was amazing though. Like the whole story of the book was absolutely amazing because we follow Quincy. She's one of the final girls out of this group of girls that have all survived a massacre that's happened that they shouldn't have survived. It was basically a miracle that they survived, and these 3 girls all come together because they're all similar. They can relate to each other of surviving something so terrible, but one of the final girls drops dead out of the 3 of them, and basically that's when Quincy is just trying to figure out what happened to that final girl, with a few other people coming into their lives unexpectedly. Like, I don't want to give too much because Riley Sager's books are always the best if you go into them blind, so I'm not going to say too much, but that's all you kind of really need to know, even though I gave you such a brief synopsis of it. But with how short it is, I absolutely just flew through this book like I do with majority of Riley Sager's books. But one thing to mention is that a lot of his books are extremely complex, so going into them you kind of have to be prepared. His writing's amazing, but he throws a lot of things at you at the beginning that you kind of just have to like learn as you go, if that makes sense. That's one thing to look out for his books, but other than that, I truly just enjoyed this book overall, and it's another one I can add on my read list of Riley Sager's backlist because I'm slowly working through that. And yeah, I would truly recommend this to you guys if you do want a fast-paced psychological thriller that's gonna have your jaw dropped at the end of it. I feel like that's the best part about Riley Sager's books, is that you are gonna be left staring at a wall for 10 minutes and not know what to do with your life after you read his books, because he just messes with your mind in the best way possible. The next book I read was on Kindle Unlimited, and it was The Resurrection of Wildflowers by Michaela Smeltzer. I'm probably mispronouncing that, but this book was a 5 out of 5 stars, you guys. I loved this book so much with my whole entire heart. It is the second one in the Wildflower duet. So last month I read the first book, and this month I read the second one, and oh my goodness, you guys, this is one of the best books in like a series that I've ever read. Because normally, let's be honest here, a lot of the times when you read a series, the first book's always the best, and then the second one's just meh, you know, and then the series kind of just continues that, in my opinion, at least through other experiences of series. But this one was so freaking perfect. These characters have my heart. This book has my heart. Just if you know the story from the first book, it just has you feeling all the emotions in the book. All at once, I wanted to scream, I wanted to cry, I wanted to laugh, I wanted to kick my feet giggling. Like, I wanted to feel all these emotions all at the same time because this book had me on a roller coaster. With this being an overall 5-star series for me, if I had to choose, I would say that I definitely like this one a little bit more, just a little bit, because after how the first one ended, you guys are going to be asking questions. You guys want some answers. You need to know what's going to happen, because let's be honest, it did end on a cliffhanger, the first one. With getting everything resolved in the second book and really figuring out a true answer, it just did something to my heart. And even now, just thinking about the book and explaining it to you guys, all these emotions are coming back to me, and that's how I know this is a 5-star series and that this book is going to be with me for a very, very long time. So I highly recommend this whole entire series, but specifically this one was my favorite book out of the series. Next, I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and you guys, this was my very first hockey romance I ever read. Like sports romance, hockey boy romance, anything. Oh my goodness, this book changed my whole idea on hockey romances. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm just like so obsessed with this trope right now. This book specifically, I don't know, maybe if it was the book, maybe it was just like the trope, maybe it was, I don't know, but it was a 5 out of 5 stars. It was my favorite read of March, which is saying a lot considering out of all the books I read, this one is my absolute favorite. I ate this up. Everything everything about it was just perfection in my eyes. A lot of these books are included in my Reading Physical TBR reading vlog that I posted for you guys. So if you want all my reactions, specifically to the ending of this book, make sure you guys go watch that. But in that reading vlog, I said at the end that there was nothing bad I could think to say about this book. And it's true, I still can't. I loved every single second of it, and you just have to believe me when I say that. But this book basically follows a figure skater, Anastasia, and Nathan, which is a pro hockey player. He's trying to make it into the NHL. And Anastasia hates hockey boys, like absolutely hates them. And Nathan can basically get any girl that he wants. He's a hockey boy and everyone just falls at his feet, basically. And Anastasia is very, very passionate about making it into the Olympics, but when one of their rinks closes, the figure skating team and the hockey player team have to share a rink. So that's when Nathan and Anastasia meet, and that's when they start butting heads. And it's like Grumpy X Sunshine, but the girl's the grumpy one and the guy is the sunshine, which is so nice to see for a change. And then obviously we have another dilemma come into the mix where Anastasia's figure skating partner gets injured and she can't compete unless she has a partner. So Nathan steps up to be her figure skating partner, an NHL hockey player doing figure skating. That sounds perfect. So everything about this book I just absolutely love. And I know that a lot of people say that this book is mainly just smut. It's extremely spicy, and they're not wrong. This book is one of the spiciest books I've ever read. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even gonna try to deny that, but I'm okay with that only if the characters have a lot of tension, they have a connection, and I feel like they are truly in love with each other, or they truly have a plot to them and they have character development. And they did. That is why I was completely okay with how spicy this book is, because trust me, like every other chapter I'm telling you, there was a spice scene, there was smut going on left, right, and center, but I was okay with it because the characters truly made me feel like they had a connection. And there was so many acts of services, so many cute moments, so many ups and downs of fighting for each other. It was just absolutely perfect. And the last thing I just really quickly want to mention is that I know some people are kind of iffy on reading epilogues in books, but I always read them, and the epilogue in this book was probably one of the best ones I've ever read. If I didn't read the epilogue, I would have had no idea that that was the outcome of the whole entire book. So please, if you don't read epilogues normally, please read the epilogue in this one. It is absolutely amazing. I needed it. I highly recommend this book. It is the first one in the Maple Hills series, so I think the second one is Wildflower. I don't know if there's any more coming out after that, but I am picking up that book ASAP because I need to know more about this series, and Hannah Grace's writing, I need to know more. Highly, highly recommend this book. 5 stars, best read of March. Then I read The Endurance of Wildflowers by Michaela Smeltzer. This is the novella of the Wildflower series, so this book was only like 130 pages, I want to say, and you don't have to read it, but I wanted to, obviously, because I loved the series so much, and this was just the perfect novella. It was the best novella I've ever read. It was super short. I got all the characters in kind of like a summary, and this book is told years later from where the second book ended, so it was just the perfect kind of wrap up to see where these characters are in their lives now, what's going on, and it was just so freaking cute. It warmed my heart. Like, this author definitely knows how to take characters that you absolutely love and would do anything for and wrap them up to live a happily ever after so perfectly. I just highly recommend the whole entire series. Obviously, this novella is not a mandatory read. You don't have to read it, but I highly recommend because it was perfection. But I did end up rating it a 4 stars only because, once again, I'm being harsher with my ratings, and I don't know, like, it was just super short, and I feel like I got everything I needed from the second book in the series, that the epilogue was just like a cute little finish up. Then I read Final Offer by Lauren Asher, you guys, on Kindle Unlimited. Oh my. You guys weren't kidding when you said this was your favorite book in the whole series, because this is the last one in the Dreamland Billionaire series. It ties everything together, it wraps everything up, and oh my gosh, I don't want this series to be over, you guys. Going into this, and when I first started reading it, I was like, oh, there's 3 books in this series, like, it's gonna take forever, like, it's gonna get dragged out. Boy, was I wrong. This series flew by. I fell in love with each and every single book more and more as I went. First book, The Fine Print, 5 stars. Second book, Terms and Conditions, 5 stars. Final Offer, last book, 5 freaking stars. I'm telling you, it has to be something about Lauren Asher's writing, because it doesn't really matter what's going on in the plot of her books. If it's Lauren Asher, I'm gonna read it. I will read anything that Lauren Asher puts out at this point, so I think that's also the main thing of why I loved this series so much, and also just because they're spicy romances. I would say that it's a pretty spicy series, so if you're looking for more closed doors, I would not recommend it to you guys. Only because, like, each book has a decent amount of spice in it, I want to say, but Final Offer was by far my favorite in the whole entire series. By far. And it follows Cal and Alana, and Cal has always been one of my favorite characters in the whole entire series. I've been waiting for his book, and I'm so happy that Lauren Asher saved it for last, because it was the best for last. But if you don't know anything about the Dreamland Billionaire series, it's basically 3 brothers that it follows, so each brother has their own book, and and they come from a very, very wealthy family, but before their grandfather passed away, they left each grandson a big inheritance with a task that they had to complete in order to get their inheritance. So now that it's Cal's turn and he has to do his task, his is a tough one, mentally. I'm obviously not going to tell you guys what the task is, but all you need to know is that it's second chance romance, childhood friends to lovers, single mom, and so much more. But one thing I want to mention is that definitely check the trigger warnings on this one, because it does deal heavily with addiction and alcohol and just talking a lot about mental health. So make sure you guys check the trigger warnings. This one definitely was a lot darker than the other two in the series. Just want to give you guys that warning really quickly. But yeah, I just don't know how to explain this book to you guys. Like, you just have to know that I loved it. It was the perfect way to end the series. The whole series as a whole is a 5 stars to me, and the tension between Alana and Cal were just everything. Not only that, but the small town aspects in this book was perfection. Just the whole community as a whole that came from Lake Wisteria, like, I'm obsessed. I want to live in that town. Bring me to that town. I would love to live in that town. Like, I need to be there, you know? So yeah, everything about this book was just 5 out of 5. That's it. I'm just obsessed with it. Then I read The Way I Used to Be by Amber Smith. This one has been sitting on my TBR for quite some time, so I'm really happy I ended up getting around to reading it this month, and I loved it. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. This book definitely touched my heart because it is on the darker side from the other books that we read throughout the month. This one definitely is on the darker side compared to the others, with heavy trigger warnings, so make sure you guys check those out because they're not playing around. This book is definitely not just a light read for anyone to pick up. I explained this in the reading vlog to be very, very heavy, and that is the best way to explain it. After finishing it, this book was just a big weight on my chest because there was just a lot of information about the character and what she went through that, in my opinion, I feel like no one should ever have to go through. I would never wish it upon my worst enemy. So I just really, really felt for Eden and her whole story as a whole, because the book is basically just Eden's life, and it's very, very character based in my opinion, but the timeline of the book follows her high school years, so it's split up in 4 different parts for each high school year. But the main incident happens when she's 15, right before going into high school. Her brother's best friend does some very, very terrible things to her, and it's basically just her life moving forward and how she's moving forward from that incident and how she's changing as a person, dealing with that in her past, if that makes sense. So she definitely goes through some amazing character growth, and there's a lot of ups and downs of her mental health, physical health, literally everything. She just goes through it. So if you definitely want more of a character-based book, this is the one I recommend to you guys. If you're okay with the things that are talked about in this book, which make sure you guys check the trigger warnings. There's a lot of them, so just make sure you guys check them before you even think about picking this up. But the sequel to this one actually did just release, The Way I Am Now, and I definitely want to pick that one up as soon as I'm off my book buying ban. I have my list already set, and it's definitely on there because I need to know more about Eden's story. I need to know more about her life moving forward after everything happened at the ending. I just need to know more. I'm quite literally obsessed with Eden, and she definitely has a special place in my heart forever. I just want to give her the biggest hug. So I'm super excited to read that sequel so that I can know more about her story. And yeah, this book is just very special to me now, guys. Next, I read The Murder Game by Carrie Doyle, and this was my book club pick with my Patreons for the month of March. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I read this for the sake of my book club and just to get it off my TBR. But this was the worst book I've ever read so far in 2024. It was terrible, you guys. I hated this book. I wanted to be generous with my rating, so I did give it a 2 out of 5. In my opinion, it could have been a 1, but I felt like it didn't quite deserve the 1, so I was nice and gave it the 2. There was just not a lot that went on in this book, you guys. It was very anticlimactic. It is a YA murder mystery, so maybe that had something to do with it. It's also classified as horror, which going into it, I was kind of nervous because I can't do horror. Nothing horror. I'm a baby. So going into it, I was a little bit nervous, but after I started reading it, I'm like, how is this horror? I've read way scarier books than this that are not even classified as horror. So I don't know. This book was just kind of a waste of my time in my opinion, and I hate saying that, but it truly kind of was, because the plot doesn't really go anywhere. You have the main incident of the 2 best friends go into the woods at their boarding school, they sneak out, they go have fun in the woods, and then they come back the next morning, they figure out there's a murder at the woods that they were at, and now there's an investigation and the 2 boys are trying to solve the murder before the police can solve the murder, so then the boarding school doesn't know that they snuck out, so then they don't get in trouble. That's basically it. And the plot just literally goes like this, like this, like this. And even at the end, it just dips because the ending was so anticlimactic. Like everything about this book was just meh. It was so boring. I was literally falling asleep reading this book because of how boring it was. So definitely the worst book in 2024. I don't even think there's really a pro I can say to this book, to be honest. I mean, the only pro really is that I didn't DNF it because I was so close to DNFing it. And honestly, if it wasn't my book club pick with my Patreons, I probably would have, but I wanted to see their reactions and I wanted them to see my final opinions on it. So I pushed through and I finished it, and let's just say I'd never want to think about this book ever again. And the last book that I ended up reading in the month of March was Lucky by Marissa Stapley. I finished this book last night, you guys. It is a shorter read and I was more than halfway through it, so I just wanted to push myself to finish it before I filmed this video today. And I don't know why I stayed up so late to finish it, because I did end up rating this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. And this is honestly because there was not a lot that happened in the book either. There was not. And the fact that I literally finished this last night and I already forget what happened in this book is a problem. Like, that's how you know that I genuinely just didn't really like the book, if I can't really tell you anything about it, because I finished it and it just left my brain. But if you are interested in picking up this book, it basically just follows a girl named Lucky. She has a million names. Like, it's hard to follow because she switches her identity so many times, but that's because she's a scam artist. Her dad was a scam artist, and ever since a very, very young age, Lucky was his partner in crime. They did scams together for her whole childhood, growing up to be an adult. After things go south with her dad, she ends up falling in love with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend then continue to do those scams in her adult years. But then once things go south in that way, and they part their ways, Lucky is now all alone again. She's really evaluating, now that she's finally alone, if she wants to continue down this path or if she wants to clean up her mess, try to be better and better herself for her future, because right now she is a wanted criminal. There's no point. She is living in hiding. She's going to get caught for her mistakes. So that's basically the premise of the book, is just Lucky trying to find herself, but still also telling her story of how she got there, because the book does flip from past to present, which I did really like. That's probably the only thing I genuinely liked other than Marissa Stapley's writing. I did enjoy that, to be honest. Like, she did keep me hooked to the point where I didn't DNF the book, and that's always a good sign. But yeah, out of those two things, those were honestly the only pro things about it. The book just kind of hit really interesting things, but then those interesting things fell so flat so fast and got dragged on to the point where it was like, okay, let's move on to the next thing. I don't know. There's just so many things that irked me in this book to the point where I just wasn't really interested in it and I wasn't enjoying my time reading it. But I think because it was such a short book, I didn't want to DNF it because it's such an easy read and I did fly through it, so there was no point on me DNFing it. And I honestly am happy that I finished it to know the ending, even though I don't really remember the ending, to be honest. Either way, I don't really recommend this book to you guys. In my opinion, it was again another waste of my time. But I mean, if you're interested in what I told you about the book, then I say give it a try. It just definitely wasn't for me, and there's definitely a lot better books that kind of are similar to this one, that are written so much better, that are more interesting, that I would recommend you guys pick up instead of this one, because it's just too boring. But those are all the books that we ended up reading in March, physical books and Kindle Unlimited books. I'd say I had a very decent reading month regarding the actual books that I picked up. We had some all-time favorites and some very, very not favorites that I definitely wish I never read. It's fine. Not all books are going to be 5 stars, so I'm happy that I got them off my TBR. But yeah, I'm excited to start picking up more spring reads, considering spring is officially here. Thank goodness. No more Canadian winter. It's been a disaster. I'm super excited to start picking up some fluffy romances going into spring and summer. It just makes me so happy picking up those books in those seasons, because it just brings me so much joy. So let me know down below what books you guys picked up in March. Let me know your ratings. Give me some book recommendations. Just let me know down below. I want to know how your guys' March reading went and everything in between. And while you're down there, also make sure you guys check out my Patreon to join my Patreon family. We have so much fun over there. They got to see all the updates as I was reading these books of my first impressions, my immediate thoughts afterwards, some quotes. They got to see it all. So make sure you guys check that link so you guys don't miss out on things like that. But other than that, I really, really hope you guys are having an amazing, wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Honestly, I just don't really remember having that much time, but give myself a little pat on the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I need to pull up my notes app. That's when Quincy, we're starting the construction again. I just love how my neighbor's construction workers are so freaking slow, and they're even working on Easter. I'm gonna rip my brains out. I'm gonna cry. But I was just so obsessed with this. Like, I don't know what else to say. See,